It didn't happen in court. It didn't happen at home. It happened in a school library. Plastic chairs. A round table surrounded by half-interested teenagers. The soft flick of fluorescent lights overhead, buzzing just enough to make you clench your teeth. I was there for a group project meeting. State history, a timeline poster, and some presentation prep. I wasn't leading it. I wasn't even supposed to be there. But Haley said Miles needed backup. He's never been organized, bright, sure, but the kind of bright that forgets his own shoes half the time. And I'd taken the day off anyway, so I sat in, quietly, helpfully. Miles, my stepson, barely looked at me. He was chewing the inside of his cheek, tapping his pen against the table while Josh, his older brother, laid out a rough schedule. A teacher sat at the far end of the room, half distracted, scrolling through some kind of spreadsheet. Another teacher leaned against a bookshelf, arms crossed. I glanced at the timeline, noticed a date mismatch, and said, gently, like stepping into cold water, might help to bump this meeting up by a day, just to stay ahead of the due date. That's it. That's all I said. And then it happened. Josh, not even Miles, looked up and said, loud enough for the whole room, "You don't belong here." He said it like it was obvious, like I'd walked into the wrong room and everyone had been too polite to say it. Until now. Then the others joined in. One of the girls smirked. Another muttered, "Yeah, seriously, smooth, practiced," like they'd all talked about it beforehand. A few snickers. Miles didn't say anything. But he didn't say anything. And that's what mattered. The worst part? One of them was filming. Not obvious. Just a quick flash of red light from the camera app before the phone disappeared back into a hoodie pocket. I didn't yell. I didn't ask for respect. I just sat there and let the moment happen. Slow and sharp, like a blade pressed into the skin but not drawn back. And then I looked to Haley. She was sitting in the corner, pretending to read something on her phone. She didn't say a word, didn't lift her head. That was the part one remember most clearly, her silence. Not the kids, not the teachers, not the phone recording it. Her silence. I nodded. Not to them, not to her, just to myself. One word came to mind. I even said it aloud, quietly. Fair. It was all fair, wasn't it? An hour later, I sent 3 messages. An email to the school, removing myself as guardian and financial cosigner. A call to the insurance company, revoking family coverage for Josh and Miles. And a short text to Haley. Everything that's yours stays yours. The video was never posted. They didn't need to. The shame wasn't in going viral. The shame was already alive. Quiet, invisible, planted years ago like mold under tile. And now it had bloomed. Afterward, I drove home. Didn't turn on the radio. Didn't open the windows. I just sat in silence, thinking of the first time I met those boys. Miles was 6. Josh was 9. Haley was working part-time at a dental clinic. Her ex had vanished again, a familiar routine by then. 3 months sober, then gone. The boys were walking heartbeats of confusion and hunger, desperate for structure, but allergic to kindness. Haley told me, they need someone steady, just someone who shows up. So I did. Not once. Not occasionally. Always. I filled out the medical forms. I brought the forgotten lunches. I signed every permission slip. When the school called at 2 a.m. because Josh had a fever and Haley couldn't leave work, I was there. Every practice, every recital, every conference where the teachers leaned in and said, "It's good you're in their life." For Miles's 12th birthday, I adjusted our health coverage so he could get braces early, before middle school made him a target. He never thanked me. Didn't need to. I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it because I thought I was building something. Josh got strep throat the winter before high school. I sat beside him on the bathroom floor for 2 nights straight. I refilled the humidifier. I picked up meds at 3 a.m. in a snowstorm. I was the contact the school actually used. Not Haley. Not their dad. Me. I wasn't a replacement. I wasn't trying to be their father. But I believed that if I was steady long enough, If I endured long enough, if I held the weight without asking for applause, eventually they'd see. Eventually they'd say, "He's ours." But they never did. Not once. The library wasn't a collapse. It was a confession. One that had taken years to build, whispered in car rides, spread across silent dinners, hidden in the way Josh never looked up when I walked into a room, or how Miles would only speak to me if Haley prompted him. I'd been cast in a role. Not husband, not stepfather, caretaker, wallet, background noise. They didn't see me as someone to rebel against. They saw me as someone replaceable. The recording, whoever filmed it, didn't matter. There wouldn't be fallout. There didn't need to be, because nothing burns if it was never lit. I remembered the house, the details of it, the hooks I installed so their backpacks would hang neatly near the door, the coat rack I bolted to the studs after Josh nearly pulled it down 3 times, the dent in the drywall from when Miles tripped with his skateboard, a dent I never painted over, because he said it made the hallway look cool, the family wall covered in pictures. But none of them showed me, just the boys, Haley, birthdays, Halloween, even a few faded shots of their father, smiling like he hadn't evaporated after custody court. I remember asking once, "Do you want to add one with all of us?" Haley just said, "I don't want to confuse them," as if love were a math problem with too many variables. So I stayed unpictured, unlabeled, and now unneeded. It would have been easier if they'd hated me, easier if they'd pushed back, fought me, resented my authority. But no, they absorbed everything. The rides, the gifts, the doctor visits, the steady meals, the steady rules, the steady hand. And when it no longer served them, they opened the door and pushed me out. Not with violence, not with tears, just that perfect sentence. "You don't belong here." They didn't scream it. They agreed on it. That's what hurt the most. The unity, the precision, like they'd finally all admitted the thing Haley never said aloud. And when I looked to her, when I searched her face for any flicker of disbelief, any protest, any whisper of "Don't talk to him like that," I saw nothing. No fury, no shame, no defense, just distance, as if she were a bystander, not their mother, not my wife. Just another person watching a man fall out of orbit. I didn't shout, didn't demand apologies, didn't even mention it that night. I came home, washed my hands, and made dinner like I always did on Wednesdays. Pasta, light sauce, no garlic, because Josh hated the smell. Haley came in an hour later, hung her coat without looking at me, said nothing about the meeting, nothing about the library, nothing about the boys. I poured her a glass of wine, set it on the counter. She sipped it, thanked me, and said she was tired. I nodded. So was I. Then I began to disappear. Quietly, precisely. The next morning, I logged into the school portal and unlinked my bank account from both boys' lunch cards. I removed my name from every contact list. School office, nurse, counselor, transportation. I reset the passwords to every service I had paid for. Tutoring, medical apps, their therapy provider's portal. Not deleted, just locked. Locked from me and from them. The house didn't notice at first. Haley was working long shifts. The boys were busy with rehearsals, exams, sports. I kept cooking, driving, checking the mail. Outwardly, nothing changed. But I had stopped being in it. 2 days later, Haley stepped into the bedroom with a piece of paper in her hand. It was folded, soft at the corners. Printout from the school. She held it out. "Why is the payment portal blank?" No accusation, just confusion. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Because now," I said, "it's yours." Her forehead creased. Not with anger, with realization. Not at what I had done. At what I meant. The portal wasn't just blank. It was unowned. I had erased myself from the infrastructure, and she knew. Every brick, every screw, every renewal form had my name on it. I hadn't given her control. I had given it back. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She left the room without saying anything else. That was the first fracture. Not between us, between her and the illusion. For years she had assumed the house would keep humming, the schedules would keep printing, the bills would just get paid. Because I had always made it so. She never asked how. She just asked when. Now there was no when. Now there was you. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't give an ultimatum. Just left everything where it was only valued at face value. I didn't touch their bedrooms. Didn't change the Wi-Fi password. Didn't stop buying groceries. I just stopped showing up where they had decided I never belonged. That weekend, I stayed home while they went to Josh's track meet. I used to take pictures, bring snacks, cheer. This time, I mowed the lawn instead. No one asked why. Monday came, then Tuesday, then the emails began. First from the school counselor. Mr. Nash, we've noticed you're no longer listed as a contact for Miles and Josh. Please confirm this is intentional. I didn't reply. Then from the school nurse. Josh reported without an inhaler this week. His medication shows as inactive in our system. I replied with 2 words, not my account. Then from the office. We received notice that the medical insurance has been declined. Please update immediately. I didn't answer. At dinner, Haley said nothing, but her eyes were rimmed red. She stirred her pasta slowly, didn't touch her wine. The boys talked about some project, some friend drama, laughing like nothing had shifted, because they didn't know yet. But the system was already buckling. A week later, I overheard a call. Haley was in the laundry room, door cracked open. Her voice was tight, whispering, "No, I didn't know." He said nothing, just stopped. "Yes, I'm trying." "No, my card was declined too." "I'm trying, Mom." That was the second fracture. The outside world had started asking questions. Teachers, other parents, her own mother. They had noticed my absence. Not in presence, but in paperwork. A teacher stopped Haley after a parent meeting and asked, "Why hasn't Mr. Nash attended this semester?" She said, "He burned out." Not, "He was disrespected." Not, "The boys crossed a line." Not even, "He's had enough." Just burnout. Like I was a candle that melted on its own. But candles burn when they're lit. I'd burned for 10 years, and no one had noticed the heat. Then came the phone calls. Josh needed his inhaler refilled. Insurance declined. Pharmacy account locked. Haley's mother offered to cover the copay, but her card was declined too. The system was still linked to mine, and mine was now shut. I watched, quietly, as the gaps appeared. Lunch balances, field trip forms, therapy invoices, Miles's ADHD meds, Josh's inhaler. All of them had relied on my invisible hand. I didn't gloat, didn't taunt, didn't post. This wasn't revenge. It was retreat. And retreat is not surrender. It is clarity. I had simply left the battlefield. And in doing so, exposed how many relied on me to fight it for them. The phone rang one night after dinner. Haley answered, her voice lifting in surprise. "Hi, yes, this is she." "Oh? No, he doesn't handle that anymore." "I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a balance." "Yes, I'll speak to him." She came into the living room, stood with her arms crossed. Not angry, not yet, just unfamiliar. "They said you canceled the school portal, the medical, everything. Is that true?" I didn't pause the TV. Every system I built was mine. I just left them. Her voice cracked. "You could have told me." "I did. The day you let them tell me I didn't belong." The room fell silent. Josh walked in then, held out his phone. "My bus card isn't working. Did the school mess it up?" I looked at him, not cruelly, not bitterly, just honestly. "No, Josh, I did." He blinked. "Why?" "Because you said I had no place here. So now I don't place you in systems that belong to me." He frowned. "That's not fair." I nodded. "Finally, something we agree on." The next morning, Haley's email dinged before sunrise. She sat at the kitchen table, her eyes glassy, staring at a tuition statement. I didn't ask what it said. I knew. The automatic payments had stopped. Because I had stopped them. Every quiet thread I had held in my hand. I let go. And now the knots were coming loose. A friend of hers called that afternoon. Another parent. I noticed you didn't sign up for the carpool this month. I noticed Mr. Nash hasn't been at the events. I noticed Josh didn't have a jersey for the away game. She lied. Or tried to. Said we were reorganizing. That there was too much on our plates. But she knew. Reorganizing means someone left. And in our house I had left, even though I was still right there, drinking coffee at the same table. Haley confronted me once more. Late at night. She stood in the doorway of our room. Arms limp, voice soft. This is going too far. I didn't move. Only as far as you let it. She nodded. Once. Then closed the door. But I heard her crying. Not because I was cruel. But because I had finally done what no one believed I would. I had stopped. Stopped being the man behind the curtain. Stopped being the fix-it-all ghost. Stopped pretending I didn't hear the silence after the boys mocked me. And still, the video never surfaced. It didn't have to. The real damage was in the unspoken. In the systems collapsing like scaffolding after the builder walks away. I wasn't angry. I wasn't unkind. I just stopped doing the jobs no one respected me for. And for the first time, the house began to feel the weight of everything I had carried. It started with Haley. Not the boys. Not the school. Not even the bills. It was a Tuesday, early, cold, still dark outside. I was in the kitchen making coffee same way I had for the last 10 years. Same mug, same silence. Haley came down the stairs slowly, as if the house itself had thickened overnight. She didn't say good morning, just slid her phone across the table. A long message. She typed it out at 3:12 a.m. Didn't have the courage to say it out loud. I was overwhelmed. You know how teens are. It wasn't personal. They didn't mean it that way. I read it once, then again. Not because I didn't understand, but because I wanted to make sure I remembered the shape of excuses. They always sound like apologies at first, but they aren't. I placed the phone back on the table, turned back to the sink. Didn't say a word. That afternoon, another message. Shorter, cleaner. You've always handled things better. At least be listed as a contact again, just in case. I forwarded it to the school coordinator with a single line. Please remove my name from all records. No explanation, no threat, just removal. That night, she knocked on the bedroom door. Didn't open it. Just stood there, quiet, fragile, more woman than wife. I didn't know they were going to say that, she whispered. I didn't look up. You didn't stop them either. She was silent. This is going too far, she said finally. I looked her dead in the eye. Only as far as you let it. She left. And this time the door closed soft. Like she already knew the rest of the house was listening. 2 days later, Miles texted me. His first message since the library. 3 words. We messed up. A pause. Then another. I'm sorry. No punctuation. No flourish. It didn't read like regret. It read like damage control. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I didn't know how to answer, but because I did. And I didn't want to. I said nothing. The next day, a notification hit my phone. A pending charge from the school's billing portal, the same one I had disconnected from. An auto charge I'd missed. An old line I forgot to cut. They were still trying to access the system. Still pretending the well hadn't been shut. I declined the charge. Then opened my email, composed a single message to the support line. Close the account permanently. Remove my name, billing info, and access credentials. The reply came within an hour. Confirmation. Erased. A minute later, my phone buzzed. Haley again. Something's wrong. The school says there's no record of you at all. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat down in the living room, the one I furnished, painted, kept warm for years, and listened to the walls crack under pressure. The boys were in their rooms. Haley paced the hallway, and I could feel the house shift, just a little, like it was trying to brace against something it had never been built to carry alone. The next day, Josh's school bus never showed. He called Haley from the sidewalk, furious. The app says I'm not registered. I've taken that bus for years. She called the district. They told her the family transport plan had been voided. No active billing account. No waiver signature. I had been the signer. And now I wasn't. Josh threw his backpack across the room when he got home. I'm not walking a mile in the rain. That's bull. Haley snapped. Then talk to him, she said. She didn't say my name. She didn't look at me. But the boys both did. And I just kept reading the paper. The next fracture came through Haley's mother. A voicemail I didn't answer, full of panic. I just got off the phone with the pharmacy. They say Josh's inhaler is inactive, expired, and the insurance isn't listing coverage. What is going on over there? I forwarded it to Haley. Nothing more. No caption. No advice. That night, the three of them sat around the dinner table without me. I ate in the garage, not because I had to, but because I wanted the silence. Inside, they whispered. I could hear it, the voices low and sharp. Josh asking about next semester. Miles asking about laptop repairs. Haley saying over and over, I don't know. I don't know. I had given them answers for a decade. Now they could get used to the weight of silence. 1 week later, Miles knocked on my office door. He stepped in slowly, holding something in his hand, his school-issued tablet. The screen was cracked. I need it fixed, he said. Not rude. Not friendly. Just transactional. I looked up at him, and in the stillness of that moment, I saw a flicker of realization behind his eyes. He wasn't a child anymore. Not because of age, but because consequences had found him. No, I said. His face tightened. I'll pay you back. I didn't blink. I believe you. Still no. Why? He asked. And the question wasn't angry. It was tired. Because you all said I had no voice here. And I agreed. But I didn't say that. Not yet. I leaned forward. Because when I sat at your meeting and made one simple suggestion, the response wasn't, we'll think about it, or, thanks for helping. It was, you don't belong here. He flinched. I remember the exact moment. I continued. You didn't say it, but you let them say it for you, and you didn't stop it. He swallowed, looked at the ground. I wasn't trying to take over your life, Miles. I was trying to help you keep it together, the way I have quietly for years. He said nothing. I was the one who kept your prescriptions active, your school plan, your enrollment, your dental, your tutoring, your laptop warranty. He looked up at me then, and for the first time he saw me. Not the version of me built on background noise, but the one who had carried the structure under his feet. I messed up, he whispered. I know, I said. He held out the tablet again. Please. I shook my head. Not because I hated him, but because love without limits turns into debt. And I'd been paying interest for a long, long time. He left without slamming the door. That weekend, the school emailed again. Haley forwarded it to me. A desperate Hail Mary. We understand there may have been an accidental removal of financial sponsorship. Please confirm if you intend to relink your account before the spring billing cycle. I replied directly. No mistake. Not returning. I didn't tell Haley. She found out when the overdue notice arrived. The paper kind. Thick. Red lettering. She opened it at the counter while I sipped coffee across from her. I didn't offer to fix it. She didn't ask. But I could see it now, the slow realization flooding her. Every system that held the boys upright had been mine. Every login, every line item, every late-night payment. And now they were hers. All hers. The next night, I overheard the first real fight. Josh and Miles. They weren't yelling at me. They were yelling at her. Josh shouting about gym fees. Miles throwing his backpack at the couch. You said he'd pay anyway. No, you said he wouldn't actually quit. You said he'd come back. Well, he didn't. Silence. Then something sharp, glass maybe, shattering. I didn't check. Didn't need to. Let the noise explain itself. Later that night, I stepped outside for air. The porch was cold. The house behind me felt like someone else's dream. Then I heard it. Haley's voice, soft, ragged, in the kitchen. He was the one holding it all together. She didn't say it to me. She didn't know I was listening. She said it to herself. Or maybe to the empty spaces where I used to stand. But by then, it didn't matter. Some truths come too late to be useful. Some apologies don't fix what silence destroyed. And regret isn't currency. Not when the cost has already been paid. I still lived in the same house. Same roof. Same walls. Same mattress I had paid for when Haley said the old one hurt her back. Same hallway where I'd patched drywall after Josh swung open his door too hard. Same kitchen where I'd packed their lunches for years, even when no one said thank you. Nothing looked different, but everything had changed. I hadn't left. I had simply withdrawn. And when you remove a keystone from a structure, it doesn't collapse all at once. It leans first, creaks, tilts, then slowly it starts to split. I stopped signing things, stopped logging in, stopped reminding, stopped refilling. I still cooked, still did laundry, still mowed the lawn. But I did those things for myself. No more forms from school left on the counter. No more follow-up emails about lunch balances. No more warnings about missed appointments, unpaid therapy, unread newsletters. They stopped coming because they were no longer mine. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't cruelty. It was release. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that doesn't slam doors or throw clothes into a suitcase. I became a presence without responsibility. The shadow that no longer carried weight. It took time for them to notice. At first, the boys acted as if nothing had happened. Josh still left his shoes in the middle of the hallway. Miles still asked vague questions during dinner about next semester, waiting for me to fill in the blanks. But I stopped answering. And silence, I learned, is louder than fury. One night, Miles asked the question out loud. Not to Haley. To me. Why don't you help anymore? He wasn't angry. He was confused. As if the faucet had stopped working and he didn't know what to do with the quiet. I looked up from my book. Looked him straight in the eyes. Because you all said I had no voice here. And I agreed. He didn't say anything. Didn't argue. Didn't even look away. Just sat there, slowly folding a napkin between his fingers. Quiet. And that silence, that sudden, unfamiliar stillness, lasted longer than I expected. The next week, a permission slip went unsigned. Miles missed the field trip. He came home quiet, face tight. Josh needed a ride to practice. I was home, keys in hand. He asked Haley. She was on a call. Said no. He sat on the porch for 20 minutes before texting a friend's dad. The message on the group chat came later. Mr. Nash used to drive us all the time. What happened? Haley didn't answer. Josh didn't either. The cracks were showing. Haley started filling them. At first with frantic energy. She stayed up late calling the insurance. Filling out the forms I used to handle. Searching for the portals, the logins, the passwords. She wasn't locked out. She had just never bothered to learn them. Because she never had to. That was my job. Had been. Now it wasn't. One morning I found her crying in the laundry room. She didn't hear me walk in. She was holding a paper, one of the medical forms, I think. Her hand shaking with a pen gripped too tight. I stepped in, gently took the paper from her, and laid it on the dryer. She looked up, eyes red. You always made this look so easy. I didn't answer. Because it had never been easy. I had just made it look that way. Later that night, she came to the living room. No makeup. Just sweatpants and the weight of too many years balanced on her shoulders. Why are you still here? She asked. Not cruelly. Not coldly. Genuinely. I turned off the TV. Because this is my home. I paid for this roof. That couch. The fridge. The mortgage. She opened her mouth. Then closed it. I waited a beat. But I'm not in your lives anymore, I said. Not the parts that matter to you. I'm just around. She sat down slowly, hands clasped, voice brittle. I didn't mean for it to be this way. I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time I saw it not guilt, but distance. Like we had both finally stepped back far enough to see how far apart we drifted. You let them draw the lines, I said quietly. And I just stepped back behind them. She nodded. I stood, took my empty glass to the sink. Before I left the room, I added one more thing. Control doesn't come back with apologies. It leaves with documents. The next day, I found a bill on the table. Unpaid. One of the boys. Haley had written a note beside it. "Can we talk?" I moved it aside. Made coffee. Didn't respond. Because by now, talking was another kind of repair. And I wasn't the handyman anymore. The school called again. This time for Miles. He had missed a medication appointment. No follow-up. They left a message. "We've been unable to reach the listed guardian. Please advise." I didn't call back. Haley did. Or tried to. Later that week, Miles came home angry. "You froze my therapy card." I looked up from my laptop. "No," I said. "I removed my name from the account. That's not the same." He stared at me. "Same result," he muttered. I didn't argue. Didn't explain. Because he was right. But being right didn't make him blameless. The next evening, I overheard Haley on the phone again. Soft voice. Tight tone. "No, I don't know how long this will go on. He's still here, yes, but it's like he's not. I know I let it get this way." The voice on the other end said something. She didn't reply, just nodded, as if that alone was confession enough. Then came the new attempt. Family dinner. She cooked, one of my favorites. Roast chicken, rosemary potatoes. The boys sat politely. Haley poured wine. They talked. Asked me questions. Asked about my day. My work. My weekend plans. It was rehearsed. Polished. But it wasn't real. I answered with short nods, a few smiles. Then cleared my plate and left the table. Because performance doesn't erase pattern. An apology doesn't erase architecture. That night, Haley followed me to the bedroom. "Can't we at least try?" I turned to her. "We did. For years. I showed up. I gave everything. You all told me where I stood. And now I'm standing there." Her eyes filled. "You're punishing them." "No," I said. "They punished me. I'm just finally accepting the sentence." And that was it. The new normal settled in. They asked. I didn't answer. They expected. I didn't deliver. And the truth slowly seeped into the walls like cold air in winter. I wasn't the glue. I had been the scaffold. Unseen. Unpraised. Essential. And now that I had stepped away, they were realizing the truth of what I'd carried. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was final. They waited for me to return. Waited for the old me to reappear. Waited for the man who fixed everything. But that man was gone. Because once you tell someone they have no place, you cannot ask them to return just because the place fell apart without them. I hadn't left. I had simply stopped doing their jobs. And the silence that followed was the sound of a house learning what I'd always known. Respect isn't given after collapse. It's built brick by brick or not at all. So tell me this, if you'd spent 10 years holding up a roof for people who never noticed until it leaked, would you have kept carrying it? Or would you have stepped back too and let them feel the rain?